Our reading this morning is a poem by David Wagner called Lost. Stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger. Must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen. It answers, I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying, here. No two trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, then you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. Just let it find you. That pulpit light helps. I can see a lot better. Have you ever felt lost? I don't mean lost as in, you're in the car and you made a wrong turn somewhere. Or you're taking a hike in the woods and turns out you took the wrong trail. Not that kind of lost. I mean, have you ever felt as though you've lost your way? Like life has thrown you a curveball. Maybe you lost a job, or changed careers, or retired. Maybe your kids grew up and left the home. Maybe illness or injury has upended the life you once knew. Maybe a loved one died. There are times when our once familiar lives suddenly become strange and unfamiliar. Like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, it's as if a tornado has swept through our world and tossed us about, and now we find ourselves on a strange path in a strange land with nothing but a loyal dog tethering us to the world we once knew. Have you ever felt lost? I have. Many of you know that 2 years ago I completed a ministry at All Souls Church in Washington, D.C. The ministry at All Souls was at the center of my life for 2 decades. I arrived there right out of seminary at the age of 29. And my first Sunday in the pulpit was on September 9th, 2001, just 2 days before the terror attacks of 9/11. Now, that was certainly a moment when I felt lost, confused, unsure of what the future would hold, as I'm sure many of you did back then. But out of the crisis of 9/11, the congregation and I forged a strong and loving bond. And from that love, a beautiful shared ministry blossomed and grew. For 20 years of my life, I knew deep down in my bones I was doing exactly what I was meant to be doing in the world. I knew I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And I experienced that sense of rightness, that sense of having found my place as a kind of grace. Because it wasn't something I could have predicted or made happen on my own. It was a gift that I received. Merited or not, grace always comes to us as a gift. That's why they call it amazing. But then one day, a few years back, I woke up and I knew that it was time to leave. I needed a change after 20 years, and I believed the congregation did too. The only hitch was I had no idea what I was going to do next. So I prepared to leave All Souls with a plan to take a year off to write, retreat, and discern a path forward. But before I left, the pandemic hit. And not only didn't I get that year of discernment and retreat and writing, after 20 years, I never even got a chance to hug the folks goodbye. Quarantined from friends and family, separated from a church community that I loved, suddenly my life felt unfamiliar and small. I was utterly lost. And I didn't like it. I was grieving. I was anxious. I was adrift. Maybe you can recall a time in your life when you felt a similar way. Maybe you're feeling that way right now. During that time, I found myself thinking about a line from one of my favorite hymns, Amazing Grace. The line goes, I once was lost, but now am found. Amazing grace. In that memorable line from one of the world's most beloved hymns, grace was forever defined for me as this state of having once been lost, but then having been found. But I was having the exact opposite experience. I once was found, I said to myself, but now I'm lost. And I asked myself, where is the grace for those of us who haven't yet been found again? Where's the grace for those of us who are still feeling lost? So I decided to go looking for it, searching for the grace that comes only to the lost. And the results of that search is what I want to testify to you about this morning. Now, early in my search, I came across a line from the author Kathleen Norris that I found both reassuring and unsettling. Norris, who writes with great insight about the spiritual life, has this to say about grace. She said, for grace to be grace, it must give us things we don't know we need and take us places we don't want to go. I thought. Wasn't sure how I felt about that. On the one hand, I appreciated that Norris described grace as a state of dislocation, of being lost. On the other hand, I didn't really like that part about being given gifts that we didn't ask for and taken places we didn't want to go. That part didn't sound like a lot of fun. But after 2 years of seeking grace for the lost, I found that Norris's words are pretty spot on. Whether we ask for them or not, there are gifts that come when we are lost. And for me, the first gift was humility. You see, when things are going really well for me, I find I sometimes fall into a kind of spiritual pride. I get a spiritual chip on my shoulder, if such a thing can exist. Pride says, who needs grace anyway? Right? Look how well things are going. Look how well I'm managing all on my own, thank you very much. But when life brings us to our knees, when we're lost, then we start thinking, maybe I do need some help. Maybe I can't do it all on my own. Maybe I could use a little grace in my life. The word humble comes from the same root as humus, or earth, soil. For me, humility tills the soil of our spirit so that it's prepared finally to receive the gift that is grace. This dance of humility and grace plays out in another line in the hymn, Amazing Grace. Now, fun fact, did you ever notice that in our hymnal, the lyrics to Amazing Grace have an asterisk in them? It's right there in the first line. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch, asterisk, like me. At the bottom of the page, the asterisk suggests that the word soul might be a possible replacement for wretch. Now, I'll spare you the centuries-long theological debate that gave rise to that little asterisk. But my experience is that many folks who come to Unitarian Universalism have left faiths that leaned hard on the wretch side of the equation, right? Placing too much emphasis on human sin and guilt. Folks came here seeking a faith that paid more attention to the soul side of the debate, to human goodness and possibility. But having finally found a church where they could sing soul instead of wretch during Amazing Grace, I've found that folks nonetheless can't quite get rid of a nagging sense that something about that word wretch rings true for them. Right? Turns out wretch comes from an Old English word that just means exile. One who is separated from home. One who is lost. Over the years, I've come down on both sides of this wretch soul debate. But lately, I've taken to singing the word wretch with a kind of gusto. It's a way for me to embrace, if you will, my inner wretch, that part of me that is broken, that is imperfect, that is lost. It's a way for me to welcome home that part of myself that pride has exiled. And that homecoming has been, for me, one of the great gifts of being lost. Now, a second gift that I've received during periods of feeling lost is a heightened attention to and awareness of the spiritual dimension of my life. You know how if we get lost in a new city or out in the woods, our senses suddenly get really sharp, you know? We're on alert. It's a survival instinct kicks in for us, and we're on the lookout for landmarks that might help orient us, for signs that might point us in the right direction. I believe the same thing happens when we are spiritually lost. Kathleen Norris, again, describes it this way: as we stumble through the crazily altered landscape of our lives, we find that God is enjoying our attention as never before. Right? Sometimes we just get spiritually complacent when we're feeling all right with the world. We can take things for granted. But when we're lost, we can't afford to be on spiritual autopilot. We got to pay attention, because we're looking out for signs that might lead us back home again. And that attention can often make us more aware of and receptive to the ways in which the sacred shows up in our lives. Maybe it's the kindness of a stranger, or the solace and beauty of nature, or the surprise of a baby screech owl, the love of family and friends. Lately, I've been far more attentive to and grateful for life's simple blessings. I think it's another kind of grace that can visit us when we're lost. Now, one final thing I'll say this morning, one final gift that I'll mention, is the way that being lost briefly opens a window in our lives for new and for previously unimaginable possibilities to enter in. Consider this poem by the Buddhist poet Gary Snyder. It's called "The Trail is Not a Trail." I drove down the freeway and turned off at an exit. I went along a highway till it came to a side road. Drove up the side road till it turned to a dirt road, full of bumps, and stopped. Walked up a trail, but the trail got rough, and it faded away. Out in the open, everywhere to go. At first, Snyder's poem looks like a story of becoming lost, right? At the beginning, everything's cool. The poet is cruising down life's great highway, but then he turns off on that side road, and the side road turns into a dirt road, and the dirt road becomes bumpy and impassable. I've been on a few of those dirt roads here on this island. And then the road disappears completely, and all that's left is a trail which gradually fades away. It seems that the poet's journey has run its course, and that he's come to a dead end. And that's when he surprises us with that line, out in the open, everywhere to go. Turns out the end of the road is no dead end at all. Turns out it's a place of infinite possibilities. There aren't a lot of moments in our lives when we're gifted with this kind of moment. The moment when one path has run its course, but another has yet to reveal itself to us. Even though we're lost, we find ourselves in a place of possibility, of potential, of openness and creativity. And if we can stay in that place long enough, if we don't let our anxiety shut it down prematurely, if we don't let our fear turn us back around and set us back on the path we came in on, then something new might just emerge from that place of abundant possibility. That's the place I find myself in right now. There's a way in which 2 years into this journey, this search, I'm still lost in finding my way. For example, I don't even know what comes next for me when I leave you at the end of August. But I count myself blessed. Being lost has allowed me to spend this year with all of you. Being lost gave me the space to develop a new ministry of leading people on pilgrimages all over the world. Being lost gave me more time to spend with my family and friends and loved ones, more time to spend with myself, my spirit, my God. And I trust that being lost will one day point forward to still further paths. I'm finally learning to trust the grace of the open road. Look, in the end, we are souls and wretches both. We are lost and we are found all at the same time and for all of our lives. My prayer for all of us is that in the midst of it all, we might discover a grace that really does live up to its name. Amazing. Amen. Jeremy's got a great idea. We're going to let Amazing Grace be the way we close out this service, okay? We're just going to close with Amazing Grace. And so I'm going to invite you now to rise as you are able, to turn to page 205 in your hymnal. And here comes the moment of choice, right? At that very first stanza, you're going to be faced with that asterisk, wretch or soul. And I want to invite you to sing whatever feels right for you in this moment. Heck, you could even find a different word for that asterisk right there. And somewhere in the jumble of it all, we trust that we'll get the balance just right. Let's sing together 205, Amazing Grace. Go in peace, friends. Amen.